Hello and welcome back to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben,
And I'm Swiz.
and thank you for joining us. This is Swiz's team progression into round four. We're at that pointy end of the business, and speaking of pointy ends of the business, I have got my broadcaster voice on, Swiz. How are we today?
Mate, I'm a lot better than what you are. God, you sound great, don't you?
I sound great, and I did my team reveal or my team podcast, I think Monday night, which is about as good as I felt, sipping on the whiskey because I had a sore throat, and woke up the next day positive. I finally got the spicy flu, the Rona. So I have literally got the missus to bring all my podcasting stuff up into the bedroom. Got a PS5, I've got a TV. I've been watching reruns. Literally just finished watching Geelong smoke Collingwood in the last quarter. It was wonderful. So I'm looking forward to a weekend of footy, but bored as fuck, Swizz. Stuck in my bedroom, literally en suite, but stuck in the room. So there you go.
Yeah, mate. No,
Yeah.
I've been through it. I was actually pretty crook last week, but that was just an actual flu or whatever it was on that. But yeah, having the Rona around New Year's, that was fucking awful, mate. I don't wish it on anyone. So yeah, no,
No.
I wish you a speedy recovery there, mate.
Thank you. And just trying to stay away from the baby, to be honest. That's why I'm stuck in the bedroom getting meals on wheels, the missus dropping stuff off. Speaking of dropping things off, I'm going to have a little glass here, guys. It's about 2:27 p.m. No daylight savings now, everyone. So I'm really looking forward to that. Football, the time it's meant to be on. And cheers. A little
Well,
bit of
that's
a
your own fault
sting in
up
the
there, mate.
nostrils.
If you Queenslanders came and joined the rest of us and that with daylight savings, there wouldn't be an
Oh,
issue.
man, that's great on the throat. Not gonna lie. Anyway, SC Insider 100. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, look for us as well. All the audio platforms. I think Swizz and I are gonna have a little footy chat after this. Just speaking on general stuff. The more I talk, the more I'm probably gonna cough my fucking lungs up, guys. So we'll try and keep it short and sweet today. Swizz, let's talk about your team, mate. Now you had a little bit of a backward step while I overtook you and Chris, I believe. Is that what's happening? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, mate. Unfortunately, yeah, it wasn't as great last week. 21-25, which put me down to 6,000. No, so my total score is 6,955. Season ranking is 4,500. So, unfortunately, my two trades backfired. I was talking last week. I could go two different ways, and it was either English Heaney with Bowie for Whitfield and McGovern, or I could bring in Hall and Rochelle. Unfortunately, I went the wrong way, and it fucked me big time. So, yeah, I think
Wow. So
that
if you went Heaney and English would have done well, and Bowie.
yeah, any of them, any
Oh.
combination would have been fantastic, mate. And just talked myself out of it because I thought, well, I wanted the premium defender. I was thinking, well, Hall, there's a big chance like he's going to probably go 120. He's going to see a lot of ball down there. Rochelle, he's going to probably kick a couple goals. And the worst thing is I brought him in and put him on field. And even with
Oh.
2 minutes to go, he was still on 50. It was not looking at awful decision. And then he gave us away that 50 and literally lost like 14 points from it.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
a big
even the
50.
dying, just before the 52, he had an opportunity to mark a ball inside 50, which would have given out like the seal then. So not only could have he scored 50, he could have scored 60 or 70. And then it looks
Yeah.
like a great move. And
And he
as you
wanted the
know,
free kick as well off Dawson. I don't know if you saw
just,
that footage where he wanted the
yeah,
ball in his hands to make up for it. So
yeah. So
I
it's
don't mind
just
him. That well,
yeah,
you
the
have
way
to
things
keep him
goes.
now, don't you? You
Well,
have to.
that's the thing, and that because now people are bloody looking at trading him, which makes it even worse.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted him because of the dual position. There's a couple of things I wanted to do the week before, and I couldn't because I didn't have that sort of rookie that if I was going to remove Ward or Berry, depending on how they go. Don't mind the fuzziness of my team here and that. This is just my buddy internet connection, but it's yeah, I thought it would give me a little bit more flexibility, and I was a bit worried about the hurt factor with Aaron Hall, but yeah, unfortunately, the whole of North Melbourne were awful. It was I thought if they're going to see that much ball in your in the Brisbane forward line, that Hall would be a beneficiary of that. And he kicks so many points to the Lions that like it could have actually been worse. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, Hall, McDonald, God, they were just so ranked. God, a couple of people who brought McDonald in thinking he was going to be the big thing. Wow,
Do you
didn't
know
they
why they
get
were bad though?
so?
Do you know why they were bad?
Well, I watched a little bit of it, but the Lions were pretty
So
good.
yeah, they were playing because the Lions have quite a dangerous forward line mix. One was pretty much on McCarthy, the other one was on Charlie Cameron, and literally they had to be accountable. McDonald was playing nearly like the deepest person in defense at some point, which means he couldn't really roll off an intercept. Charlie Cameron was, putting some blocks on as well. So basically, those two were accountable. Hall just couldn't kick to save his life. When we have
Oh
a
yeah.
look, Hall had quite a few disposals, kicked the first goal for North, right? You would expect to go well there.
Mm.
Turned it over so many times. I was literally putting the hex on him. Every time we got the ball, I was like, turn over, you shit, you shit, you shit. And the only person that caught more flack from me that day at the Gabba, which could have been how I got the Rona, to be honest. Um, yeah, North Melbourne stunk so bad they decided to
Yeah.
get me sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the only person I gave more flack than that was Pollock.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, "You're shit, Pollock." Yeah. So,
But
but
he
Hall,
already
his
knows
roles
that.
there,
Surely he knows that.
and they do look to him to break lines. But the issue was they just played that badly, and the lines were on. They were all over them, and the North had to start playing accountable footy because he had a lot of dangerous small forwards. Now, some teams aren't going to have those kind of dangerous small forwards, so you'll find they'll peel off a bit more and try and be attacking. When they tried to attack though on the weekend, they got exposed. So it was one of those weird kind of combinations where you want them to attack, but they also got flipped. And I don't think the coach was too happy with some of their efforts, to be honest.
No, he wasn't at all. And then the flip side of that, like I thought Heaney's probably going sort of 70, 80, and that at best. He ended up obviously finishing off the game really well and got his score. Bowie, I was at that game and I was cursing him every time he went near the ball. And the problem, I couldn't believe in how much space he would get into. Like even at halftime, like, oh, it's not a terrible decision. He's only in the 30s. Hopefully he only gets like a 70 here. It doesn't hurt that much. But they just like Wilfie just showed him no respect at all. He just walked around, did what he's hung about 10 meters off the pack, and Guelphy was sort of just sitting forward, not impacting the game. And he just kept getting the ball. I've gone, oh fuck! I would have, buddy. If I'd seen this, and if he was on the bubble this week after watching him, he would have been just an absolute lock for me. But fortunately, sometimes you don't get to see them live, and it just changes your opinion so much. And Tim English, well, I thought, well, Ruck's probably 100, 105 at worst. Hall's going to probably hurt me worse. And that if he's going to see a lot of ball and Hall gets going 120, English will get his 100 and that. And I go, okay, I'll bring him in soon. Well, friggin' hell, that game he played was ridiculous. And then what made it worse was Hickey went off injured, and then he just had a field day in that last quarter. So yeah, it's just one of those. You flip a coin, and sometimes it just doesn't land on heads for you. So yeah, it's unfortunate. And then obviously the forward line where we've been big on Butters and my boy Butters, and I've even got him the O hamburgers, and that's how I feel right now. Friggin' O hamburgers, buddy. Him getting winded early by friendly fire, and
Yeah,
unfortunately,
Pal Pepper.
got a yeah scored what was it 58 in the end, and that's hopefully he's all right this week. And he said he's going to play, but just hopefully he's not carrying anything a little bit more long term now because that's an absolute killer. Fucking this
Right.
screen share, mate.
Yeah, it's okay, mate. Let's talk about your team though. So you've got
Yeah,
Gorn
let's
and
do it.
Grundy. Are you looking to hold both these guys? What are your trade moves for this week?
Yeah, mate, I still don't think Gorn played that well on the weekend and he got 117. I think he's going to, like, I'm with Chris. I don't think he's going like 130, 140 and that, but he's still got improvement in him and he's still scoring one. Like, he could have kicked 4 goals. He
Yeah,
absolutely
what do you get
monstered
behind
Draper.
and a couple out in the full?
Yeah, and a couple out of the fours were really bad out of the fours. Like their goals he'd normally kick and that. So yeah, like I've watched all 3 of his games closely. He has not played that well, and he's still averaging 99. So definitely keeping it going. Yeah, he's going to drop cash, but I still think he's number one. Grundy's a bit more of an interesting one at the moment. Like I'm not looking or wanting to trade him out, but he just hasn't looked like anywhere near the. Well, this was the question some people were saying: was last year's Grundy just the Grundy we're going to get now, or were we expecting him to come back and really improve? But there might be a case where he might only be a 100, 105 guy, and that
Well, his
he
first
does
round he got like
struggle against Stanley.
120, didn't he?
20,
So
but who was that against the Saints? With like just Marshall, but Marshall went better than him anyway. I think it was a bit of a ruck kind of game. I think Marshall went 125.
yeah, the concerning part is this week he's obviously up against Nick Nat Nui. So
Mm.
he'll have to really try and dominate around the ground, especially when they have their second ruck on. I don't know. I'm not too concerned. Like I know he's still averaging 107. Now he went 96 this week. He went like a low 100 last week, like very low 100. I'm just trying to bring it. Yeah, 101. So I think it's one of those ones. And again, trying to go back to the old premise where it takes rucks for a little bit longer to get into it. And we've seen it before. I think there was one year, Big Sanderlands, started off extremely slow and then just absolutely came home with a house on fire. And then you look at Darcy and these other boys. Big boys usually come home strong, like the Big O last year. Started off slow, came home with a thunder. These big boys take a while, and I think sometimes people forget that the bigger you are, the harder it is to get that match fitness and the tank in and to back it up week in, week out and get those Ks in the legs. Because no matter how hard you train, right, big boys are heavy. Like, no offense, they're probably slack as fuck,
Yeah.
and then you play actual games and you get the match fitness in. I say slack, obviously, the guy that hasn't run much in a while, but big boys. So
Yeah,
I'm not too
mate,
concerned. If I
I
had them, I'd
agree
hold.
with that, and that's why I'm not concerned about Gorn. But just going off what Grundy did sort of last year, and that, like, is it just the way they're kind of playing now, where he is actually declining a little bit, just because, like, there was some issues obviously last year and the year before with COVID, it probably didn't suit him as much, but we're all expecting him to be this, the number one guy. Ever since he signed that massive 7-year contract, it just sort of hasn't meant the same for him. And I do have some concerns that there with him. And I know what you mean about getting started, but those people who don't have the set and forget rucks are really looking good at the moment. In a perfect world, I would like to go Grundy to English, and it's probably the one trade I'm actually looking at, just because Bruce. And how do I get Bruce in the week after is the question. Because if he plays again and goes 100, 120, we talked about in the preseason how much he could be the number one cash cow this year. And
You mean my
unless I have
R2,
him sitting,
Bruce?
yeah, well, if unless I have him sitting on the bench, and that's where the Grundy to English, and then somebody down to Bruce the week after, because like you still have English's cover if you wanted to do something like that. And I think that's where a lot of people are looking this week, going, well, if Bruce even goes 80, 85, 90, he's still going to be a really good scorer on field, and then it solves your forward problem. Like, so I could actually go Grundy to English this week, get Bruce the following week. English becomes in the forward line, which takes Martin or Rochelle or one of them off the field. Prue still scores 80, 85, 90 as an R2. It fixes a lot of my side's issues, because this week have actually just most people talking about how do you decide between Hayes, Rochelle, Martin each week. You're going to get it wrong. Like this week, I was looking at Martin. Chris kind of talked me out of it, and I went Rochelle. And I know I've got to stop fucking listening to Chris, because he just fucks my team. So shout out to our boy there, Chris, for fucking me up. But no, I should have just
Yes.
knew. I knew. And the funny thing is with Martin, he actually was playing a bit of a different role. It was also a bit my wife, because she's like, oh, he's playing forward. He's not going to see a lot of ball. And he was actually linking up in the half back line. So it's a bit of a surprise there, because Essendon have so many half backs as well. But he kind of got a bit of wing and half back time and looked really good. So, but I don't think Martin's going to come out and score 70, 80 every week. So would I prefer having English there and have a bit more security? Yeah, for sure.
So is that what you're looking at?
Yeah,
Grundy to
that's
English or
probably
what? What?
it's the only really trade I'm looking at the moment. Because of a couple of rookies that are in, I'm not that impressed about Gallant. He's a tall forward. He's not going to
Yeah,
do
kick
that
four
every
goals.
week. Kick 4 goals,
Correct.
great. But is he going to do that every week as an Adelaide tall forward? And Tex comes back, should be coming back this week. So does that change things? Does that make it easier or harder for him? Yeah. And then they'll, Essendon under the roof. Well, maybe he'd be all right. Thompson Dow, I know you were asking me about him before. He looked good. Well, we've got to play
Yeah.
somebody in that midfield, but Prestia is still out. We don't know what's going on with
Well, I
Dusty.
think Presti's on a test, I think. So how
Yeah,
quick he gets back, I guess we'll see. But yeah, I'm not big on that for so much. But yeah, captains for this week, Swiz. We can get on to the rest of it, I guess, in the potty as far as other
yeah,
rookies
yeah.
and stuff to go for.
Well, I've been backing McRae in as my vice captain every week, and I don't think that changes too much. They're playing Richmond this week, so I think the doggies are going to do a bit of a number on us. So I really like him. And then Captain Cripps versus the Suns. It all depends also if I've got that loophole. Last week I didn't have the
Yeah.
loophole. I had all players playing. If it's the case again, I'm still happy to back Cripps versus the Suns. I just had a look at what the Giants did to the Suns last week. And I think the Blues midfielders as good as the Giants, so I feel like it's going to be a bit of the same. And that there's a possibility that Took might have to look at tagging. They don't want to. He's shown he can be tagged now, which was a bit disappointing. So
Well, double
does that?
tagged, mind
Yeah,
you.
double
So
tag. So do the
um,
Blues do something similar? Do they go
no,
Kennedy and Hewitt kind of roll around him on
I reckon they
stoppages,
might
or?
run. I think they might run with, but it's Do you know what I mean? It's one of those ones. Carlton haven't
Yeah,
tagged yet, so everyone's like, "Oh yes, well they're going to tag." It's like, okay, well Carlton haven't tagged yet. Like even Geelong and these other guys, like, um, was it Geelong? No, well they're just going to back themselves in.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
So when they play any of the sides so far, and Michael Voss, Port Adelaide aren't notorious taggers, I'll probably just put a little bit of body on, like they did with Neil and stuff previously. I could be wrong, but I think Carlton would be well and truly comfortable enough to try and back themselves in and back their talent in over
Mm.
Gold Coast.
Yeah, I think so too, and that's where I'm pretty. It's always the thing, the Sunday mods for your captain. Do you really want your captain coming in the Sunday? It always seems to not work well. But at the same time, I think Crips versus the Suns could be a bit of a field day. It's
Yeah.
usually pretty slippery. Those sort of conditions means a bit more contested ball around. I think yeah. So that's the one I'm looking at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's fair enough. I guess you could go Max Gawn as a VC as well. Not a bad option against Port Lyset, but otherwise, I think it's probably McRae C or VC. If you have a loophole, VC would be ideal. I don't even mind McRae. I just think he'll work harder and get on the outside more than the Richmond players. So I think he'll go 120 plus this week and will really back up. Just depends on how they name those teams as well. If he's named in the guts or out in the wing. But
I don't think, mate, it's not going to matter. McRae's going
no,
big this week, and there's a part of
that's
me
what I
that kind
mean.
of wants to go vice captain someone else in like Neil or as you said, Gorn or something like that into McRae and just
Yeah,
back McRae's going, especially after McRae had a stinker last week. He's
yeah, I
not
think he'll
having
be
another
hungry.
90 this week, and that he'll
Yep.
he'll come out and he usually does pretty well against us, and we don't tag. Like you saw what happened with Gresham, Steele, they just ran right, especially in that last quarter. So I think yeah, it could be very much that somebody into McRae. But I'm struggling to get away from Cripps at the moment.
So have you got Martin yet or not yet?
Yeah, yeah. Martin's my he's sitting there at F6. I know it's a bit
Okay.
fuzzy and stuff like that,
So he was
unfortunately,
already
but
no, you're right. No, I was just checking. So he was already in your team. Okay,
yeah.
so
So
the
the
only
only
trade you're doing is Grundy possibly to English or
yeah
holding steady.
yeah, it's either hold his steady or if I get the twitch fingers and go, well, I really want English, Grundy's going to drop. And it's more, and it's not because I want to get rid of Grundy. It's because I'm looking at Bruce and thinking, how do I facilitate to get Bruce in the week after if he goes well? Which the way he played, he looked really good, and he's got the ability to make. We as we said, we talked it all preseason that he could be the number one cash cow this year.
Yep. And that's why he was my R3 to start the year next to English. And now that worked out well. I put him on field this week, which worked out wonderfully. I haven't had to start a cheap rookie all year in the forward line yet. So I think that's probably the thing that's boded me well. Outside of week one, where they all went absolutely massive and I got really fucking royally screwed. But since then, yeah, playing those more expensive rookies. So your Brodies and your Cherry and that kind of stuff has worked out pretty well for me so far. So, Swiz, I think we'll leave you to it and we'll get together and do a little podcast looking at rookies and whether, if you don't have certain players, who you should get or who you should actually be looking for on the horizons and a real short little schnitz and giggles. We'll catch up soon.
Yeah, mate, sounds good.
Bye.